Where do we make budget cuts? Everybody's saying if you make it on our end, it will affect development, it'll affect a number of issues. So yesterday, Francis Gachuri did a story talking about the cost of running government, just showing you how much is spent at the national level. Today, we want to carry that conversation forward. Perhaps do a social audit of our constitution, of where our spending goes to. Are we getting value for money? Are we overrepresented? Of course, there's a number of issues here. There's duplication of roles, there's wastage, there's inefficiency, there's corruption. So we're doing some perspective today. Now, we have compared Kenya and the elective seats to a number of other economies, just to give you perspective in terms of how much we are represented and whether we are getting value for money, at least on that end. We compared Kenya and India, which is a newly industrialized economy, and the US. The reason we've picked those two countries, both of them have devolved systems, both of them have a bicameral house. I want us to take a look at that for a moment. So here is a comparative study of Kenya, India, and the US. The populations as of 2017, as you can see, 47 million, 1.2 billion in India, and 300 million in the US. Now, these are the seats that we have picked that are both common to all three countries. 67 senators, of course, 20 of them nominated. 245, take a look at those numbers, for the National Assembly and for the governors as well. We'll just point out that in India, the governors are not elected, but they are appointed. So this is the total number of elected officials. 456, 826, and 584 in the USA. If you just look at that, depending on the population, then that should indeed tell you something. So, are we overrepresented? Perhaps. If you just do the simple math of the number of elected representatives versus the population, one representative per 103,000 people in Kenya. And if you take a look at India, the number is even bigger, and yet their GDP and their economy is much bigger than ours. One representative per 1.2 million people. And in the US, which again has a much, much bigger economy and area scale, one representative per 513,000 people. Okay, so let's take a look then at some of the numbers there and just what it means. And what we've done is taken a look at just the nominated officials. There's the conversation, of course, about salaries, and many people say even if you save a small amount of money from the salaries, that it's a drop in the ocean. But we'll explain in just a moment. So nominated officials represent special interest groups, right? Women, youth, and persons with disability. As a woman, as a young person, as a person living with disability, can you say you get value for money? This is the sort of monies we're dealing with. We have 1,000 nominated MCAs, each of them earning about 300,000 shillings. If you take a look at their annual salary, it's 3.6 billion shillings that is going to the members of county assembly who are nominated. For the senators, 20 of them who are nominated, each earning about $1 million bob. For the year, it's 240 million. And when you take a look at the CASs, here's another controversial position that many feel doesn't perhaps give us value for money. They earn about 132 million per year. Now, the total, if we take a look at the nominated MPs as well, that's 144 million. Now, if you take a look at the total of their salaries, that's nominated MCAs, nominated senators, the 22 CASs and the nominated MPs, it comes to 4.1 billion. Now let's pause here for a moment. If we were to take a look at this as a saving, I know what you're thinking. Our debt is at how much? 500 billion? This is a drop in the ocean. But tell me, when things are tough, doesn't every shilling count? I will tell you what this 4.1 billion will do in just a moment, but it's important to also note that this figure of 4.1 is just their salaries alone. But remember, all of these officials have officers which need to be paid for. Those officers have lights, they have water, they have bills, they have vehicles, they have staff. So there's quite a bit. There's allowances that go into just keeping them in office. So this 4.1 is a conservative figure because it is just their salaries. Now, I know you're thinking 4.1 billion shillings is little money, right? In a country that has a debt of 500 billion. But every shilling goes a long way. Don't you remember when you get 500 shillings in your pocket and you are broke, that 500 shillings can take you a long way. But let's just see what this 4.1 billion shillings can do. Well, for starters, a good level 3 hospital, so that will be a level 3. Let me just take my pen here and do some of this, okay? So a good level 3 hospital, all right? Apparently, that costs 1.8 billion, okay? It costs 1.8 billion shillings. So that 4.1 billion can build at least 2 level 3 hospitals, all right? Now, that same 4.1 billion would actually be enough to fund, according to this year's allocations, Lamu County, which was received 3.5 billion, or Tharaka-Nithi County, which was received 3.6, or Elgeyo Marakwet at 3.8, or this is the most interesting item, is that for 11 counties, which require 4.3 billion shillings to fund the operations of their level 5 hospitals for the entire financial year. So this is money that we're spending in recurrent expenditure, but that can actually go to development, into things like health, into things like funding the counties. And we haven't even started the conversation about whether the 47 counties are economically viable. Many people saying that those little small counties do not make economic sense, which is why we're going into the economic region blocks, that those are about 6 of them. Are the counties only supposed to receive money from the national government or supposed to generate their own revenue? These are some of the questions we're asking. And even as we talk about that saving that you'd make from just the nominated officials and the CASs alone, listen, it's not necessarily about the 4.1 billion, but it's also value for money. That's another conversation that you have when you're rationalizing your workers. So even if you're paying your CASs or your nominated officials X amount of money, but are they making that valuable? Are they passing policy, legislation? Are they doing exactly what they were supposed to do such that it justifies that salary? So 4.1 billion may be a very small drop in the ocean. But as we have seen, it is money that can go a long way. And in a country that is struggling with a heavy debt burden, can we save a little bit everywhere? Perhaps it's time we start to do a social audit, which was actually done by the former chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Honorable Mutava Musyimi, and just see where this takes us. Perhaps it's time to have that conversation. Everybody talking about a referendum, but just understanding what it would mean. Let's talk about this some more. The hashtag to use is tonight. And please tweet me. What are your thoughts on this? Where can we save? Is this valuable? Is it not? The hashtag is tonight at Citizen TV Kenya at Yvonne Okwara.